name's James. I'm a physiotherapist and one of the members of the Close House Golf Club. I hope you keep it well during this lockdown period. Obviously a bit of a crazy time we're in at the moment. Lots of spare time on people's hands. Boredom probably starting to set in now. So I just thought I'd take the time to make a couple of videos which outline some exercises that you can do at home, which hopefully will have a good impact on your golf swing. So as a golfer myself, I know how frustrating it can be when you're out there week after week grinding away on the cold. Obviously a great course, but can take its pound of flesh sometimes. And you're just not seeing those results in the competitions, or the handicaps just not going in the right direction. And 9 times out of 10, if you're anything like me, you'll look to kind of switch the hardware up for a quick fix. So you might flip back to the old putter, which has been sitting in the garage for a couple of years collecting dust, or you might go for the old driver, which used to bomb 300 yards. But I think the saying of a bad workman blames his tools is probably justified here. One of the things which potentially is overlooked is actually how our mechanics of our body work. So if we start to break down the movements of a golf swing and work out potentially what muscles are tight, what joints are stiff, and then work on those, we might get a better result rather than just reaching to switch up the equipment. Now, as a physio myself, I'm very interested in the mechanics of a good swing. So what joints need to work well, what muscles need to interact with each other in order to produce a very good swing. And I think that golf is quite an interesting sport. It's quite unique in terms of you can have people that swing the club very differently, yet still rise to the top of the game and become very good golfers. A couple of examples off the top of my head would be Jim Furyk, and also more recently Matt Wolff. So a couple of players who you would say have very unorthodox swings, yet still obviously very good players. And then you can compare them to the likes of Rory McIlroy and Adam Scott. So both you would say probably have biomechanically sound swings. I don't proclaim to be a professional golfer myself, far from it. I'm still trying to improve and get better. But I do understand in certain patterns of muscle tightness and joint stiffness, how that can impact the golf swing. So I think this lockdown period actually gives us a really good time to just do some exercises rather than have that temptation of rushing out onto the course, doing 9 holes, 18 holes to try and improve. So in this first video, I'm going to talk predominantly through some exercises which are aimed at improving flexibility within joints. But just before I crack on with the exercises, I just want to go through a few basics of the movements that go into a good golf swing. So if we look at the amateur golfer from a setup point of view, normally what you'll see is that they have a C-shaped spine. So the C-shaped spine is pretty much a carryover from what we do during the day. So more and more of us are spending a lot of time sat at a desk during the day. So we're just putting that spine into a forward flex position. So our bodies start to get used to this. So it just feels natural when we stand over the ball to then go into that position. The problem with having this C-shaped spine is that when you try to rotate, and part of the backswing, when you rotate, your shoulders are rounded and your hips are tucked forwards. So you actually block yourself physically with your own body. If we're able to open up the body, we're going to encourage a lot more rotation, which should allow you to develop a bit more power into the swing. Just touching briefly on some muscle groups which the C-spine shape starts to affect. First of all, at the hips are your hip flexors. So you've got a muscle called your psoas, which comes from your lumbar spine and attaches into your hips, at the front of your hip. And it's a very powerful puller of the upper body forwards and also the pelvis forwards. The problem is when the pelvis gets tipped forwards, it then switches off the glute, or it inhibits the glute muscle from firing as well. So that glute muscle starts to get weak. And the glute muscle is really important in terms of stabilizing the spine. It extends the hip, but it also creates a lot of rotational forces needed for golf. So if we can release the hip flexor and we can strengthen the glute, we're going to be able to bring that pelvis back into a neutral, which is going to help us with a really good start point for a golf swing. The next thing to talk about is shoulders. So obviously if we're spending quite a lot of time with rounded shoulders, The pec muscle is in a shortened position, so therefore it gets used to being very short and it tightens. When it tightens, because it attaches from the front of your shoulder, it draws that shoulder forwards, which then lengthens and weakens the muscles on the back and between the shoulder blades. So we need good strength and mobility of the shoulder blades in order to open up the shoulders, which then allows us to rotate through the movement. So key areas are the hips, getting rotation through your thoracic spine and opening up the shoulders. So these are the next set of exercises I'm going to run through. We'll concentrate on those areas. Okay, so the first exercise we're going to work on is stretching our internal rotators of the hip. So your internal rotators, your adductor muscles, so the muscles that run up the inside of your thigh. Really important muscles to stretch because internal rotation, particularly on the back swing portion of the movement, is important. So the best way to start stretching them by standing up is to take your legs into a wide position like this. We're going to stretch the right groin. You're going to put a bend into your left leg, and then almost going to try and turn your chest down in towards that right ankle, and you should feel a stretch up the inside of your thigh. And we're going to try and hold this stretch for about 20 seconds. Anything less than 20 seconds, what happens is the muscle fiber just tends to go back to the position it starts in. So it's really important to try and pick a stretch that you can hold for about 20 seconds. So after we've stretched 20 seconds into the right, and you're going to ease up slowly, and then we're going to work the left. So, and just play around with your foot position. If you need to take it wider, you can do. You're going to bend that right leg, and then going to turn the body towards that left ankle this time, so starting to feel the stretch up there. Now we're going to try and hold that position. Sometimes just a hand there for balance. Should start to feel this and be able to sink a little bit deeper into it. After 20 seconds, going to ease up. So there is another way you can stretch your adductor muscles. If you don't want to do it standing up, you can come down onto your knees. So if we're going to stretch the right one, you're going to take your left leg out to the side. So you've got that angle there, and then you're just going to try and sit back onto your left heel, and you should be able to feel the pull up the inside of the groin. So again, similar thing, we would hold that for 20 seconds and then cross to your other side. So go onto your right knee, take left leg out, just play around with the foot position, and then just try and sit back onto that right heel, again feeling the stretch here. So whichever one you want to pick, try and do about 2 on both sides, 20-second holds, and then after you've done that, we're going to finish with a groin stretch combined with a lat stretch. So you're going to take your knees into position which you feel like you can keep, and then from there you're going to take your weight forwards, put your hands in front of you, and just try and allow your back to arch down or your chest to arch down towards the floor, and you should be able to feel this in both sides of your groins, as well as stretching out your lats, which is a key muscle that runs from your shoulder right down to your lower back. Just going to try and hold that for 20 seconds. Good stretch, this one combines a couple of things. And then after 20, going to ease up slowly from the stretch. And you're going to repeat that 2 times. So just run through those. If you feel like you're starting to get a bit more nimble, then just try and take the knees slightly wider and then go back into it. Just be careful with this one because it is quite a strong stretch. And then after 20, going to ease up, just shake the legs off. So exercise 2, we're going to work on stretching the external rotators of the hips, which primarily are your glute muscles. There's a couple of ways to do this. The first one, we're going to kind of start with the lightest stretch and then work into the deeper stuff. So you can lie onto your back, and then the first one is just going to take that right knee and you're going to hug your knee to your chest. So this is going to stretch the glute muscle as well as the start of the hamstring muscle. So you're just going to try and hold that. I just use this as a little bit of a warm-up one, so about 10 seconds on that stretch, and then you're going to switch across to your left, hug that knee to the chest. If you're getting any problems in the hip here or pain in the hip, then you can just miss this one out and start with the one I'm about to go to after this. So after 10 seconds, going to ease up. And then to make that stretch a little bit deeper, we're going to take the right knee up, left hand goes on top of the right knee, and then you're going to pull the right knee almost towards that left shoulder or across the body. Key thing with this stretch is try and keep the shoulders on the floor. Don't let them come off. You should be feeling this IT band a little bit, but predominantly in that glute muscle. And then we're going to try and hold this for 20. Again, if you feel like it starts to free up as you stretch, just go with it. After about 20, ease up slowly, and then left knee comes up, right hand on top of the left knee, pull that across towards your right shoulder this time. It's quite normal to feel tighter in one side than the other, but again, try and keep those shoulders down. If you want to, just lay the arm out wide. Quite a good deep stretch this one. After 20, gonna ease up. If you want to then make that slightly deeper, you're gonna take both knees bent. You're gonna take your right ankle, put it on top of your left knee, and then you're gonna interlock your fingers behind the left thigh, and then you're gonna try and pull the thigh towards you. So this is stretching my right glute. I'm going to try and hold that for 20 seconds. If you get any knee problems, if you've got any irritation in the knee, probably not the best stretch for you. Go back to the one I've just done before. Good, so after 20 seconds there, going to ease up. And then we're going to take the left ankle, put it on the right knee. I'm going to try and take the hands and then pull them behind the right thigh. So I'm tight with my left glute, so already this is a stronger stretch. Again, we're trying to think, can we hold this stretch for 20 seconds? Good, so after 20, can you ease up slowly? And then there's one more if you want to, it's called the pigeon pose. So in order to do this stretch, again, if you've got any problems with your knees, I'd probably avoid this stretch, but otherwise, we're going to take both ankles to the side, and I'm going to lift my left leg up over the back of the right leg, and then I'm going to try and sink down into that stretch. So this is a really good stretch, strong stretch of the glutes. If you can, and you get a little bit better at, try and itch the hands forwards, and then you can also try and allow the chest to sink down towards the mat. But again, it's about, can you hold the stretch for the full 20? Good, once you've done that, you're going to ease up nice and slowly from the exercise. Shake the right leg off, and then we're going to work the left side. So we're going to shift the ankles to the right. Going to take the right leg up and over the left leg, and then try and sink back into the stretch again. Once you're in there, you think, I'll go a little bit deeper. Arms forwards, chest down. Should be starting to feel like this frees up a bit. After 20, just going to back off nice and slowly, and that's stretching the glutes out. Right, so next exercise we're going to work on is stretching our hip flexors. So as mentioned previously, the hip flexors are really important to try and release in order to allow us to get our spine and pelvis back into a neutral position. Yeah, key startup to the golf swing. So in order to stretch the hip flexors, the best way to do it, or one of the best ways, is to come into a kneeling position. If you've got a sore knee, then I recommend just popping cushion underneath the left knee. I'm going to take the right leg out in front, so going into this lunge position. Key with this exercise is to try and keep the back nice and tall, yeah, and we're going to put the right hand on your pelvis, and I like to make the stretch a bit stronger, just put the left hand behind the head. From there, you're going to then lunge forwards, but keeping the back straight. As soon as you start to bend the back forwards, you're going to take the tension off the hip flexor muscle. So we're keeping the back nice and straight, the hand comes behind the head, and then if you want to make it slightly stronger, you side bend to the right. So we're trying to feel the stretch front of here. So hold that for 20 seconds. Again, if you want to make it slightly stronger, you might come up onto your right toes. If you're struggling for balance, just take the right foot slightly wider. After 20 seconds, going to ease off. And then same thing, but this time for the right hip flexor. So cushion underneath the knee, left leg out into position you can get good balance from. Left hand on the pelvis, right hand goes up behind the head, lunge forwards, back stays tall, and then side bend, but this time to the left. So going to try and hold that position. It's also a good stretch for your external obliques, your abdominal muscles. Does stretch your lat as well. I'm just going to try and hold that. Good, and repeat that twice on each side to get a good effect from the stretch. Okay, so just to finish off the hip flexor stretch, what we've just stretched there was the psoas muscle, which is the main hip flexor muscle, but also your quadriceps or hip flexor as well. So in order to stretch them, probably one people have done before, it's going to take to sort of stretch the right one. We're going to grab that right foot. I'm going to try and pull the heel towards the bum. Again, it's important about not bending forwards from your upper body here. So you're trying to push this pelvis forwards. Yeah, should feel that stretch all the way down the front of your thigh. Again, holding for the allotted 20 seconds. By the end of it, hopefully you can get your heel near enough to your bum here. Good, after 20, just slowly ease. And then you're going to do the same thing, but this time for the left. I'm just going to switch positions so you can see. So legs are straight, grabbing that left foot, pull the heel towards the bum. Just hold that there. Again, so you might start with a bit of a bend. By the end, you should be able to push that pelvis forwards as the muscle starts to ease off. Good, so if we can keep these hip flexors eased off, it's going to stop pulling that pelvis forwards, which then leads in to the rest of the problems further up the chain. After 20, ease up, and then that's the hip flexors stretched off. So the next exercise we're going to talk about is stretching the hamstrings. The hamstrings are really important. On most people they're quite tight. The hamstrings actually attach into the back of your pelvis. So if we're thinking about what the impact that can have on our golf swing is when we come to set up, if the hamstrings are tight, they're going to draw that pelvis posteriorly or dropping it downwards, which encourages that C-shaped position which we're trying to get out of. If we can loosen these hamstrings, it's going to allow the pelvis to come into that neutral position, which should encourage a better postural position on the upper half. So, best way to stretch the hamstrings, or quite an easy way, is to come onto kneeling. So you're going to kneel onto your left leg, and you're going to take your right leg out, and then you're going to try and sink down into that position there. So if it's uncomfortable to putting too much of a bend into that left knee, you can just take the leg further out in front, so you've got more of a neutral position there, and then you're just going to tilt your waist over the top, so you should feel quite a strong stretch here. But again, put the stretch in so you can hold it for 20 seconds. If you want to make it stronger, you bring the toes towards you and you try and reach your hand forwards. Always quite a grim stretch, the hamstrings, but a good one to put in. After 20 seconds on your right, you're going to ease up slowly, and then we're going to switch across to your left. So again, you can do it like that, or take the left leg out in front, keep the waist, and then just tilt forward from the waist. If you want to, you're going to add in that stretch. If you're struggling with any sciatic nerve problems, then I wouldn't advise doing this exercise, as sometimes can irritate those problems. Good, after 20, then ease up, and then repeat 2 on each side. So the next exercise we're going to talk about is how to mobilise the spine. So just briefly, spine split into segments. You've got your lumbar spine, which is the bottom 5 segments here, it's your lower back. Then we've got the thoracic spine, which is T1 through to T12, and then we've got the cervical spine, which is your neck. So it's really important to mobilise the thoracic spine because, as talked about earlier, if we have an excessive arch into that, that's going to limit the amount of rotation we have at the shoulders but also at the thorax. So if we can extend that thoracic spine up, it's going to allow us to rotate a lot better, which might allow us to get a little bit more power into our swings. So best way to mobilise the spine is to come into this all fours position. So you want the knees hip width apart underneath the hips. Hands are going to go shoulder width apart underneath the shoulders. And then we're going to start by arching the back down towards the floor whilst we look up towards the ceiling. So that is taking everything into extension. And then we're going to reverse that. So we're going to put the curl up all the way to the ceiling as we look down, which takes us into flexion. And then we're just going to work through those movements. We're not going too fast, we're not going too slow. Key thing is try to think about moving the spine here. If you get any pain on either end of the movement, just back off a little bit. We're going to go for about 5 times here. Good, so after you've done about 5, we're then going to turn that into a stretch of the tissues at your lower back as well as your lat dorsi. So your lat dorsi, which is your wing muscles, start from the tip of your spine here. They come up and they attach into your shoulders. They actually have a big impact both on your shoulder and your lower back. So good way to do that is to come back into this all fours position. You're going to arch your back up and then you're going to walk your bottom back onto your heels, and then if you can, try and take the arms a bit further forwards, and that will stretch both sides. If you want to bias the stretch, so I'm going to stretch the right lat now. I'm going to take my right hand, pop it on top of my left hand. I'm going to kick the right hip out to the side whilst lifting the right shoulder up towards the ceiling. And you should start to feel that stretch run all the way down into that lower back area. I'm going to hold this for about 10 seconds because I'm going to repeat 2 or 3 each side. So I'm going to come back to the middle. This time left hand on top of the right, and then you're going to sink down, kick the left hip out to the left, and then lifting that left shoulder up. Quite a strong stretch. Hold it for 10. Good. Then ease up, and then go back into that right side. Each time, if you feel like you can go a little bit deeper, take the hands slightly further forwards, kick the hips slightly further out to the right. Good, back up. I'm just going to finish with 2, but feel free to try 3 of these, as long as we're up past 20 seconds in total. Good, then you're going to ease up. And then that is the stretch of the lumbar spine, thoracic spine, as well as the lat dorsi. So the next exercise we're going to talk about is how to mobilise the thoracic spine a little bit further, so more specific exercises. There's quite a few exercises I could have chosen to demonstrate here, but I'm just going to pick a couple which I think are most goal specific and also a little bit more interesting than the other ones. So the first one is called thread the needle, and you can combine this with taking the arm up towards the sun. So you're going to come up into this all fours position here. You need to take your hands a little bit further so you can get a good bit of clearance, because what we're going to do, we're going to work the right side first. You're going to stay nice and strong with this left shoulder, so it's working hard, yeah, rotate the cuff muscles working, and then we're going to take the right hand and we're going to thread the needle underneath. I want you to try and allow that right shoulder to sink down towards the floor as it touches it, and you're going to come back up, keep that good position with your left arm. You're going to try and open up your chest, take the hand up towards the ceiling, and then return. Then we're going to switch to the left, so left hand goes under. I'm trying to get that left shoulder to touch the floor. If you can, brilliant. If you can't, don't worry. And then we're going to take the left arm all the way up to the ceiling and then back down. So we're going to repeat this 5 times on each side. I'm just going to talk about a couple of things you want to be trying to do here. So as you take that hand under, you want to be trying to think about the shoulders stretching, and also I've got an eye on my hips here, so if I just turn side on for a second, if we switch off at your abdominal muscles, what's going to happen is we're just going to get an arch in there and we're just going to concentrate on the upper body. Well, if we switch our abdominals on by drawing your tummy button up towards you, so we're keeping a neutral spine position, you're going to kill two birds with one stone. So we're going to get good core work as well as mobilising that thoracic spine. If you're getting any pain here, getting any problems, just need to back off from the exercise. And we just finished this fifth one. Might have done 6. Quite a challenging exercise. There's loads of ways you can progress these on. Okay, so that's thoracic mobility. So following on from the thoracic spine mobility exercise, I just want to throw in another one which I think is very good, quite golf specific, and also stretches a few muscles at the same time. So we're basically going to go back into the hip flexor lunge stretch position. So you're going to take the right foot out in front, just sink forwards so you can feel a bit of a stretch up the hip flexor. Try and hold that position there and bring your arms out in front. So if we're thinking about good posture on the upper half, we're trying not to do this with rounded shoulders. Try and set the shoulders back. You're going to keep your right hand pointing straight ahead and take your left hand out to the side. When it feels that bit of a stretch, just kind of go with it and then return to the start. And then just going to try a 5 with the right. And with my hips, what I'm trying to do is keep both bony points pointing straight ahead. I'm not trying to rotate out, so that will encourage your thoracic spine to do the rotation. Also get the shoulder blade moving around the rib cage. After you've done 5, and stay in that position. This time going to move the right. So this will also open up the chest, stretch the pec. So going to do 5 rotations there. I think this is 5. And then going to ease up. And then we're going to stretch the opposite. So left foot out in front, comfortable position. Lunge forward slightly, shoulders set in a good position, and then you're going to take that right one out to the side. There'll be a point where it feels like it's going to stop, so just take it to that point there. 4, and then that's the 5th one. Then I'm going to switch up, so again keep the hips pointing straight forwards. 5 on the left. 4, 5. It's quite a good exercise. You can progress it on to use bands in your hands, which will help with more strength-based stuff. The other way to do it is to actually get a golf club and try and combine all the thoracic movements. So what we're going to do is come into the same position. So we're going to start left foot out in front. Hands just kind of wider than shoulder width apart. I'm going to use the golf club this time. So we're going to rotate to the left, back to the middle, then rotate to the right, and then we're going to extend the arms up. So that will encourage thoracic extension and also open up the arms. So I'll go for about 5 times. Again, we're trying to keep control of the hips, try and stay in that hip flexor stretch. Good. If you need to back out of the stretch, then go back into it, you can do. Then I think this is the 5th one. You can play around with whatever movements you want. Now I'm going to switch sides. So right leg out in front, drop into the stretch, arms out in front, shoulders set, and rotate to the left first, then the right. You should feel like you get slightly further towards the end of the repetitions. Also a good workout for the shoulders. 2, 3 more. Good. So you're getting quite hard work now, which is good. Test your balance a little bit. I think that's 5. And then going to back up. So that just helps to bring a bit of golf specific work as well as stretch a few muscles at the same time. So final set of exercises going to work through are trying to mobilise the shoulders. So just a brief recap on why we want to free the shoulders up. If we spend a lot of time at the desk during the day, we tend to get this rounded posture whereby the chest muscle gets really tight because it's attached to the front of the shoulder. It draws the shoulder forwards, which then starts to lengthen and weaken the muscles at the back. So if we can free the chest muscle off, that's going to allow the shoulders to retract a bit, which in terms of a golf swing allows us to get a little bit more range of movement out and help us with rotation of the golf swing. So first one I'm going to show you is a pec stretch. So you just need kind of a door frame or the edge of a bit of wall. I'm going to stretch my right shoulder out here, right pec. So I'm going to put my hand on the wall there, just start at about shoulder height. You can switch the stretch up by alternating the hand position. That will stretch different fibers of the muscle. But if we start just in a neutral position, which is 90 degrees, you're going to stretch the right pec by walking your body out to the left. So I can start to feel quite a strong pull across here, working down into the bicep. So it's important to note here that yes, you'll be stretching the pec, but you'll also be putting a stretch on the nerves of your arm. So if you start to feel any quite soreness going down the arm, I'd recommend making a fist rather than doing it like this. If you make a fist, it should take a little bit of tension off the nerve. If it's still a bit sore, just back off from the stretch. So again, we're trying to hold for about 20 seconds. After you've done that, ease off from the stretch. Then you're going to stretch the left. So I'm going to put my hands like this, and then keeping the arms straight, I'm going to walk the body out to the right so I can feel the stretch through that left pec major muscle. Got 2 pecs, pec major, pec minor. Pec minor is quite a strong pull of the shoulder forwards as well, so a good one to free off. Again, I'll probably go for about 2 stretches on the pecs both sides. After 20 seconds there, going to ease up. Okay, so then we're going to work into the triceps. So your triceps back at the top of your arm, and they attach in to the top of the shoulder here. So one of the best ways to stretch them, you're going to take your right hand, drop it behind your head, and then you're going to grab your right elbow with your left hand, and then just try and pull the elbow over to the left whilst keeping the body nice and tall. Try not to round here because you'll take the tension off the muscle. So we're also extending our thoracic spine in this position, which is good. I'm going to hold that for 20 seconds. Good, after 20 seconds, you're going to ease off, and then we're going to stretch the left. So left hand goes up, drops behind the head, right hand grabs the left elbow, you pull to the right, keep your back nice and tall, feeling the stretch immediately. Good, so after 20 seconds this side, and then going to ease up. Again, I'll try 2 on both sides. Then you can add in a tricep stretch with a lat dorsi stretch. So just to recap, the lat dorsi comes from right at the bottom of your spine and attaches up into your shoulder. So again, if it's tight, as we rotate the club towards the top, if this lat is tight, it's not going to allow us to get all the way to the top, because it's going to be pulling that shoulder down that way. So if we can free it off, I want to get more range of movement out. So to stretch the right, you're going to go into that tricep stretch, but to stretch the lat, kick the right hip out to the side. And that's all you need to do to bring the lat in. Again, if you stay nice and tall, you should feel that stretch work all the way down into here. Once you've done that, 20 seconds, quite a good strong stretch. Up to you whether you do 2 on both sides. Left side up, start the tricep stretch, pull it across, then kick the hip out to the left. Should be feeling nice and loose now. After 20 seconds, gonna ease up. Okay, final stretches, we're going to try and stretch, so your deltoid muscle, which is a big shoulder muscle, split into 3 parts. You've got your anterior part at the front, middle fibres, and then your posterior fibres at the back. So to stretch the posterior fibres, yeah, you're going to take your right arm and pull it across your body. So that is going to stretch the tricep as well as that deltoid. In order to make it slightly stronger, keep your hips pointing straight ahead and try and rotate. So again, this kills a couple of birds in one stone. It'll stretch that deltoid tricep. It's also putting a bit of a stretch into the lat, but it's also rotating through my thoracic spine. So we think about golf again. After we've taken the arms away, then you get rotation from the thoracic spine without the hips moving. So if we keep the hips pointed straight ahead, we're mimicking that movement. And ease off. So tricep first, then rotate, keep the hips pointed straight ahead. You can do more dynamic movements, you can start to work into this, but I'll cover that in a later video. And after 20 seconds, gonna ease off. Okay. Right guys, so that's all the exercises I'm going to run through on today's video. Hopefully you found them useful, you found them quite easy to follow. If you're struggling to hold some of the stretches for 20 seconds, don't worry about it, just back off 10-15 seconds and just try and keep a good system to the stretch. So you start at the hips, work up through into the spine and then into the shoulders. And then hopefully once this lockdown is lifted, we can get on the first tee and hopefully see the ball cruising down the middle of the fairway as opposed to snap hooking one into the trees. The next video I do is going to be based on some strength exercises, so look out for that. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.